Welcome into Basketball by Association. My name is Arky. Shea. That is Joel C. Cordes. Joel, I want to get straight to the association of basketball in this, but first, before we get to predicting, and we're about 97% accurate on this podcast, I would like for you to name this a podcast after someone. Who are we honoring this fine day?
There still is no NBA player with 156 career playoff games, which made it difficult. I had to go outside of the normal list of what we've been using. However, ranked 156th on the list for career playoff minutes is somebody who I don't think we've named an episode for. We probably would have, because he's one of my favorite players from that era, very unsung. This is a guy who is a 5-time NBA champ. He was on the 86-87 All-Rookie team, and those are the only career accolades this gentleman has ever had. Yet, he was a key piece in 5 championships. Started his career with the Cleveland Cavaliers, did some time with the LA Clippers when they were actually good, which was the first time really since they had moved to LA that they were actually even semi-good whatsoever, and he was there, along with Doc Rivers, not the coach, but the player. Dominique Wilkins was there as well. Loy Vaught was there. But then, at age 31, he goes to a little place called Chicago and joins the Bulls, wins 3 championships, and then wraps it up with 2 seasons on the Lakers, where he also won championships. Let's see if you can guess this gentleman.
Okay. 85, 86. All-rookie team.
86-87 all-rookie
team.
Sorry,
86-87 all-rookie team.
Yeah, with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Started with Cleveland. Went to Chicago.
Now went to the Clippers.
Well, I mean, at some point went to Chicago.
Yeah.
Finished with the Lakers. So we're probably talking late 90s, early 2000s.
His career ended in the 2001 season.
Okay,
so the beginning of the Lakers three-peat.
Okay, did he win the? Okay, so that was a championship year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So was the year before, right? 99, 2000, 2001. Okay. All right. So it was Cleveland in '86 rookie team.
He was a nemesis to Jordan and then became a wingman to Jordan, and was one of the 2 guys who was conspicuously omitted from the Jordan documentary, to the point that we were like, what in hell?
That does, because I was trying to think, like, rookies in Cleveland in 86, 87, like that's Ron Harper, Brad Daugherty type years, right? But Brad Daugherty didn't go win a bunch of titles. He owns NASCAR teams right now. So it's Ron Harper, right?
It's the Ron Hollywood Harper episode.
Wow. We finally got to Ron Harper.
Yeah. He was, I don't know why, but he was one of my favorite guards from that era. A guy who scored 20 points per game with the Cavaliers, or awfully close to it, was awfully close with the Clippers. Injuries started to set in. There was questions about where his career was going to, go. And then he winds up with Chicago and becomes a defensive specialist, and only averaged 11 points per game in the year after the Bulls got blown up. And he was one of the main pieces on a terrible, terrible Bulls team where he lasted 35 games. But he goes from being a 20 point per game guy multiple times to completely reshaping his career and being, the defensive lead guard, the point guard on this massive wing line of 6'6", 6'7" guys of him, Jordan, and Pippen. He kind of set the blueprint that you could run a team with a point guard who wasn't a true point guard.
I'll mention this and then we can move on. Ron Harper's son is a highly touted basketball recruit for the 24 cycle. So not for obviously this year, but next calendar year. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's got offers from everybody. And I think he plays somewhere in the Northeast. I think that's where they're home right now, in the Northeast. Maybe probably not New York. DC maybe, New Jersey maybe. I don't know which one it is, but he's a highly touted to recruit. And last time I heard anything about him, He basically just could go wherever he wanted. So interesting stuff there. They still play basketball at the Harper house.
They do.
All
He's
right,
going to join the Jaren Jackson household with probably the Curry household too, with sons who probably surpass their dads in career accolades.
Fair. It's gonna be hard to surpass Daddy Harper.
5 rings,
yeah. But you know what? God bless you if you can do it. Love to be able to see it. Maybe love to see it. I don't know. We'll find out.
As long as it's not a Celtic, right, or a Sixer, then you'll be fine.
I mean,
are those the only 2 teams that you legitimately really hate? I guess I've never asked this question. Is there anybody else besides the Celtics and Sixers, which makes sense as a Knicks fan? I got no problem with that because they hate the Knicks equally. But like, is there anybody else where you're like, oh, I never have liked that team?
Miami. I hate Miami.
Okay.
I hate Miami.
Also would make sense as a Knicks fan.
Yeah. I just loathe Miami. Yeah, like I have no feelings for like Toronto or anybody else like in the East. But I basically hate everybody that the Knicks rivalry with. Like not Detroit. There wasn't much of a Detroit. I used to hate the Bulls, but I think the Bulls turned into such a feckless franchise that I'm not really worried about or care about them too much. But yeah, those are
that rivalry is long dead between New York and Chicago.
Yeah, those are the 3 teams. I started to hate Atlanta just a skosh because of one Mr. Trae Young, but it's not too bad at this point.
I suppose the Pacers rivalry dried up too, after the 90s.
Yeah,
maybe early 2000s.
There's not been too much with those 2 either. But you play Boston, it's going to be terrible. You're going to want to throw up every time you watch them play each other. Same thing with Miami, although that's a little lesser. And Philadelphia's even a little lesser at this point because I actually like Joel Embiid a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm.
I haven't really found a person on those franchises I like until like Joel Embiid. So, let's find out about this next upcoming season and who I might hate that might push the Knicks out of the playoffs at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Prediction time is what this time is for the podcast. The games start next week, right? So we got ourselves some hoopage action, but let's predict it first. Joel, again, 97% accuracy. Joel's going to tell me in what order he thinks that each conference is going to finish. I'm going to tell him where he is exactly right, which is everywhere. Except for probably when he talks about the Knicks. Joel, let's start up.
No, I don't think you're gonna. I think you're gonna like where I have them this year. But yeah, we're gonna call this one Joel, you crazy. So stop me at any point in here. Top of the East, I'm gonna go with the pundits, and it's hard to choose against the Milwaukee Bucks at this point. Yes, they're short a defender, as we've talked about. The bench has a couple of question marks, but bringing Dame Lillard in, getting that offensive pecking order together. It's a loaded starting lineup if Chris Middleton remains healthy during the year. So many weapons. So we put the Bucks number 1. Number 2, it pains me sort of to do this, but I'm happy for you, buddy. I'm putting the Knicks second in the East this year. I'm putting them as high as second. I'm on board this New York Knicks train, despite my disdain for Tom Thibodeau. I'm there with you.
Are you flirting with me?
I'm not.
Is this what this is? Are you
I'm
flirting?
Not trolling. I'm probably not flirting. But yeah, New York has all the pieces. They have the cohesiveness. They've got tons of depth. We saw the blueprint for them last year, and it's a workable, repeatable blueprint. I think the only thing beyond maybe one of these other East teams beneath them, and they're probably only going to be separated by a few games. The only thing that really comes between New York and the usual, well, if so-and-so gets hurt, we could say that about anybody, is that Thibodeau's teams have typically had a really good year followed by a hiccup year. And that happened in Chicago. It happened in Minnesota. It's happened in New York before once already, where you build up expectations and for whatever reason, they don't do it. He's got to break that cycle in order for this prediction to be true. But on paper, before any of the games get played out, I look at the Knicks as bringing the continuity that a lot of the teams below them don't have and an edge over the team that I've got in third.
Well, they're 1-3 in the preseason, Joel. So let's pump the brakes a little bit, okay? Big important thing. Did you see, by the way, the Knicks brought back a whole bunch of former Knicks before their preseason game against the Wizards? So, Latrell Sprewell and company. Like they were
Was
all
Charles
just
Oakley in attendance?
Charles Oakley, yeah, allowed back into the building.
Really? Okay. Good for James Dolan. Good for Oak.
Actually, I don't remember seeing him. I was hoping he would be.
Yeah.
I can't find the majority of the Knicks games preseason wise on any TV. So I just saw some of the highlights where it's kind of fun watching an older Latrell Sprewell go through sort of the player line, and you're like, oh hey, you choked a guy, right? Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Where's Anthony Mason when you need him?
But I like Latrell Sprewell, so so shoot me,
Number 3, I've got the Cleveland Cavaliers, so the second NBA Central team here. Again, you look at the Cavs, they've got everything they need, but I give the Knicks that edge because of that edge we saw in the playoffs last year, and the fact that they're in their own division, whereas the Cavs have the Bucks to contend with, and you're going to cancel out a little bit. There's a lot of good teams in the Central Division this year, so I've got Cleveland there. Can Cleveland advance? They have to. The Donovan Mitchell experiment has to produce, I think, a playoff first-round win at least this year. They can't flame out again, especially if you get to host a playoff series as they are. Number 4, this is the one that's going to get me in trouble with people. I've got the Celtics down in 4th. I know you won't mind that whatsoever, but you and I talked about this, that New York has a cohesiveness. They've got a toughness. Boston, I have some major question marks about the toughness and depth overall of that team. I think they're running 7 deep right now, and that's scary when your front line is Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford. Injury issues, age, there's not a lot backing them up. They feel like they're a piece short on that front line. Somebody like what they got rid of with Robert Williams, who can play above the rim and sit in the dunker spot and clean stuff up, who can be a big shot blocker. Porzingis is going to get blocks because he's tall and he has decent positioning. He's going to get some blocks. Horford always gets a few, but they just don't have the rim protection, and they don't have that tough guy. Drew Holiday, as much as they like from him, and I think he is going to help in a big way. It's going to be a good defensive guard tandem. But when you get into one of those fist fight series, does Boston really have that guy? I'm not sure that they do. So I'm sure you don't mind about that with the Celtics being 4th, but is that too low in your mind?
I don't mind. I was going to wait till, because I'm taking notes of where you've got people and where I sort of have them on my list.
Well, let's talk about that top 4.
I think I think Boston's probably going to win the East. I won't predict it because I do hate them. So because of my hatred, I have them second.
Okay.
But I do think I don't think I have to worry too much about this Boston Celtics team now running 7 or 8 deep. I think Boston in the regular season, they're a front running team. I think that I think
you think they'll win more games than the Bucks in the regular season, or at least you're dancing.
I think it's
going to
be really
prediction.
tight. I think it's going to be like a 61-60 kind of situation, maybe a 59-58 kind of situation. It'll be close, and maybe you got a tiebreaker them. I don't know. I don't think there's a ton of difference as far as how those two are set up. I just think Boston has more initial explosiveness that they'll be able to run. The depth sure is an issue. But they're not going to have to worry about that in the playoffs, too. Teams' benches shorten up when it gets to the playoffs, too. So I think Boston's super dangerous. I have Milwaukee 1, Boston 2. God bless you for putting the Knicks second, because I have them 3rd. And I thought that was me being generous to the Knicks. I think there's just going to be a lot of slugs this season for the Knicks. And I think it's going to, at the end of the year, you're going to see them up there and think, man, that's not a very impressive team. And maybe they're not. But I think they're going to be able to rack up some defensive hardness there. And I don't have Cleveland 4th with you. I have Cleveland in that last guaranteed playoff spot, number 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Why are you so down on Cleveland, especially after they added a couple more shooters to the group?
I don't fully trust Cleveland, and there's something I just don't quite understand about them. I think it's the way that they went out against the Knicks last year. I think they're a little better overall, maybe, right? But I don't think that they just automatically get better. I think there's a chance to come back, because I honestly think here, and I'll say who my 4th team is to give you the top 4. I still think Philadelphia's a top 4 team. I think, again, we're talking about the difference. I think this East is going to be just log jammed. Probably from 1 to 5 or 6. It's just going to be, who had a great run in December that shows up, at the end of the year kind of thing. But I still think I think getting rid of James Harden or just not having him around is going to be helpful for Philadelphia.
But the problem is they haven't actually gotten rid of him.
No,
he's still I know he's missing practice now and probably won't appear with the team ever again at this point, but he's not off the roster. He's not moved yet,
No, I know he's not technically gone, right? Just sort of being in that we're done phase that, I think you could sort of mentally get past. And now that you've started the season basically without him, it's going to be easier for you. And I still think, you can go right there, but I still have Philadelphia number 4.
And, just missing practices with no announcement why really ups your trade value and really makes other teams around the league want to give you your 18th chance in the league. James Harden is literally just he is kneecapping the rest of his career right now with his ego.
Yeah, I'm not the GM, so I don't have to worry too much about that. But it is kind of a terrible strategy if you're the Beard,
especially for a guy who can't close in the playoffs. Let's go to number 5. This is my hot take pick, and they were I teased this hot take pick when we were going through the Eastern Conference 2 weeks ago. In 5, the 5th spot, not hosting a playoff series, but in 5th. The Indiana Pacers. I am on board with this team, and Rick Carlisle now having another full season with this group that they've been building to play his way. Tyrese Halliburton gives you everything you want and more. We saw him in FIBA again. The kid is legit. He's an incredible floor general who also knows how to score. They've got weapons around him. I love the idea of Halliburton and TJ McConnell and some of those other guards throwing lobs to Obi Toppin, who now gets to run the floor and play in a similar system to what he did with Tibbs, except the freedom offensively. But instead of having Mitchell Robinson backing you up defensively, you get Miles Turner instead. That's not a bad swap to be the power forward for that group. So the wings are deep. We've talked about Buddy Hield, Ben Mathurin, and all those guys, Andrew Nemhard. Tons of wings. I think they're built to play in the modern NBA. Rick Carlisle has shown that he can be he's willing to mix it up. He's willing to adapt to his teams. That's not something you could say about him early in his career. So I think this is the year that we see them all of a sudden make a big regular season leap.
I don't hate that either.
Surprise.
I don't hate that either. We can sort of go team by team going forward. I have them 7th, so I have them as the top sort of play in. I'm with you. I think they're a much improved bunch. I think they'll be playing the postseason, and I think they'll be playing in that top play-in spot.
I've got the Sixers in 6th. Again, it's not that I think they're so much worse than before. It's just there's a lot of other really good teams in the East. They're missing a weapon that they're not able to fully replace, although I think Kelly Oubre gives them stuff. But think of how rough things can get in Philly if and when Joel Embiid misses 15 to 20 games again. Tyrese Maxey will put in yeoman's work, but Tobias Harris is what he is at this point, and the rest of the guys on that team, not terrible. They're going to be competitive, but I can't really put them higher. I've got the Hawks in 7th and the Nets in 8th, rounding out at least kind of the top of the play-in there. Both of those teams, again, they're good enough. We've hated on the Hawks a lot, and for good reason, but there is talent there. I think now getting a full offseason with Quinn Snyder is going to make them more of a system type of team if Trae Young can handle that. And I really do like that core of wings that the Nets have, plus Nick Claxton. That's a fun role player type of team. If you like that, where it's you don't want it to be all about the stars. I think they're going to get out and run. They're going to win some games.
I don't agree too much. I disagree too much with Atlanta and Brooklyn. I actually have them at 9th and 10th. So just a couple spots before, but Atlanta at 9, Brooklyn at 10. So I'm with you, just a little lower on them, and I'm higher on one more team that you haven't gotten to yet.
So in ninth, the Miami
Actually,
Heat.
two of them I have.
The Miami Heat I've got in ninth. Injuries are already starting to hit that bench a little bit here during the preseason. That is worrisome because there is no bench to speak of. They're going to have to really scrape some diamonds out of the rough this year. And I just don't think it's going to be enough for them to be ultra competitive. Of course, as soon as we say that, the Heat will run the table, go 82-0, and win the Eastern Conference. The 10th team. So
I should say, by the way, you have Miami ninth. I have them fifth.
Wow. With no depth.
A lot of it's the same mentality, which is this team will grind just enough. Now, I see what you're saying. They'll grind just enough to get to the playoffs. I think they'll be a little bit better than that. This is a team that's not that far removed from being a 1 seed, but they are older. They don't have as much depth as they had that couple seasons ago. I can see why you would have them lower. It's just
they've got 3 starting caliber guys, and that's it. Like Kyle Lowry and Kevin Love are not NBA starters anymore, and they're going to have to
watch for Kevin Love's rebound year this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine seeing it. He's due, but yeah, I mean, I think the Heat are going to limp through and won't be able to win enough regular season games to be up in fifth. I'm not counting them out in the playoffs necessarily, but like, I don't know.
That's fair. It's okay to be wrong. I understand.
Yeah. My 10th team. This is a little bit of a hot take, and it's a team that's due. Man, have they been due. I don't know that they'll do anything with it other than it shows some progress for them. 10th seed, getting into the play-in by the skin of their teeth, the Orlando Magic. I do like what they've got with Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. There's a lot of young talent there. We've been saying it for years, they need to put it together, but I think there's so much. In the past, it was young talent in the starting lineup and a hodgepodge on the bench. There's youth and talent all over the roster, bringing in a couple of veterans, including a guy like Joe Ingles, I think can help them. Joe Ingles is a table setter, a facilitator. Offenses run smoother when he's there. He's not necessarily an X factor, but it shows that the Magic, by even bringing on a veteran like that, have some aspirations to finally win some games and to compete for something.
Yeah, I have Orlando 14th, next to last in the East. I don't feel nearly as kind of, but I also think that's going to be a strategic choice by them. They're not going to try to win as many games. I still think they're trying to build that franchise a little bit. So I think that's more strategic than as far as the pure bodies that they have on there. But I'm a little different than you there.
So the 11 through 15, I'll rattle through these quickly. We don't need to spend a ton of time with the bottom feeders. And if you want more of our analysis on these individual teams, go to our Eastern Conference preview, which was a couple of weeks ago. You can find the video version on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe over there. If you want the audio-only version, Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. In 11th, I've got the Bulls. Again, not good enough to get a high lottery pick, not good enough to get into the play-in. The Wizards at 12, I think they're going to win just a few too many games. That starting lineup, another group of role players I like. Raptors take a big step back at 13th. Fred VanVleet's loss is going to hurt. And I think that's a team that actually might be sitting in 9th or 10th by the trade deadline, but they look around and go, it's better for us to blow this up and move these guys on. And somebody like Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby finds new teams. I got the Pistons in 14th, which actually will represent a step forward for them. I think they're in 14th, but they win 10 more games than last year. It's finally time that they take a step forward. But the real team that's going to suck, I think, is Charlotte. I've got them at the bottom.
We missed. You named one of the teams at the bottom that I think is going to be playing into the play-in. I have Washington 8th. I have the Wizards playing
at 8th place.
I think.
Holy cats! Okay.
Yeah, I think that they're going to be a major step up. I think getting rid of a major dummy bad contract. I guess it wasn't too dumb at the time. Excuse me, and Beal that's going to be able to help them advance forward. Again, when you get down to the bottom end of the play-in, it's not a bunch of great teams, right? We're talking about a bunch of teams. You're going to find a team or two that you think is just tougher, runs through one or two more streaks throughout the regular season. But I think they're ready to start making their way back up there. So we got 6, 7, 8. So I have Atlanta 9th, Brooklyn 10th, and then 11th. Yeah, I have 11th Toronto, 12th Detroit, 13th Chicago. You have it 11th. They're a little different there.
So you think the Pistons finish ahead of the Bulls this year? The Bulls finish in the bottom of the division.
I like the Pistons. I like the
Okay.
Pistons this year. I like I told you last week, I think Detroit's
Mhm.
going to surprise some people this year. Orlando is 14th, who you have at 10th, and I'm with you. Charlotte's going to be terrible. They're going to be terrible. There's not a lot of front end talent that's even healthy, and whatever there is,
Mhm.
and there's zero depth on that roster. So Charlotte's going to be terrible. What do you think about the West?
All right, in the Western Conference, I am putting the Lakers number one.
Yeah,
I've
you
I've been on
dog.
the record, as being high on this Lakers roster. I hate to do that, but I've got to be objective. I am not a Lakers fan, although I love the group of role players they have. Maybe it's the fact that like 4 or 5 of them are former Minnesota Timberwolves, and I really like those guys when they were role players for our team. But yeah, the Lakers are loaded. They've got everything they need. Second place behind them, I have the Phoenix Suns. This is going to be a little bit difficult just because of the way divisions work and seeding and stuff like that. But I'm going without those rules right now, just based on regular season records. Lakers and then Suns. We've talked about the talent that Phoenix has. They have a little less cohesiveness about how it's all going to work together. There's more to figure out, but they're loaded with shooters, and they are the type of team that I think probably on a lot of nights can rest one of the 3 stars and still have so much shooting depth around them that they're going to beat up on a lot of the bad teams.
Fair. I actually have Phoenix first. Not the hottest of takes.
Mm-hmm.
They're an absolutely loaded roster too. I think when it comes to the top 3, I think the top 3 on my list are going to be really tightly compressed together. Unlike
Mm-hmm.
what we've seen in recent years, where number 1 has run away with it for the last couple of years. Excuse me. I think it's going to be really tight. And for the Lakers, you have them first. I have them third. I have them third overall. I love the roster. I love what that Rob Pelinka
Mm-hmm.
magician has done. Sorry, witchcraft that has done.
Yeah.
That's whatever wizardry that's not coming from the East Coast.
You think the Lakers are probably just going to rest their guys a little bit more?
You
Is
got
that
to,
what it comes
right?
down
Like
to? Yeah.
Anthony Davis can't stay healthy. LeBron's 47 and a half years old. Like you got to
That's
give him
fair.
a few
Yeah.
days. Yeah, and listen, the young guns that they have are capable and good, but LeBron and Anthony Davis are the reason you're over the top. So I think as long as they're in the top end of the playoffs and hosting, they'll be fine.
Third place, I've got a division mate of these two teams. And again, with the way the divisions work, this may not actually be the way the seedings fill out because division winners lock in some stuff. But I've got the Golden State Warriors, and I know that's gonna surprise you on that one, and you'll probably disagree heartily. You're a lot lower on them than I am. But I think a lot of last year's problems, especially on the road, there was the Draymond Green, Jordan Poole stuff. It was maybe not a completely together type of locker room. Jordan Poole is gone. The younger guys are a year older and they're going to be asked to do less. They're coming into the season, the roster basically fully healthy. Andrew Wiggins is supposed to be there for the whole year now. I think they are capable of winning a lot of games based on the starting 5. We know Chris Paul is a question mark, and that may be where you think they drop some games, but I still can't put them lower than third, and I tried to.
Oh, okay. Well, try harder, Joel.
Yeah.
I have them 6th. I have
Yeah.
them right sort of where they were last year.
I
Again,
think a lot of people will put them there too.
yeah, I don't see them being much different from what they were a year ago, and I think they're older, and I just think their run's over. They keep making the playoffs, but this isn't a championship team, in my opinion.
Nope, I totally understand where you're coming from. 4th place and 5th place. I've got the Nuggets in 4th. I think this is a sophomore slump type of thing after the championship. Nikola Jokic goes on record as, I may or may not have touched a basketball.
What's
all
the problem with that? Do you need to touch a basketball to be good at basketball?
Which would be, massive headlines for certain other guys in the league. It is a huge double standard. I got the Kings in 5th. It is possible that the Kings finish higher than that. The Kings could finish in 3rd again. You could swap out where the Warriors are. Kings could finish in 4th instead of the Nuggets. But I think Sacramento's roster is better than last year. And yet they don't finish as high just because you have a couple of powerhouse teams now in the West. And the Kings, they're not going to sneak up on anybody anymore. You're ready for that game. You're going to be in a fight with them. So I think they're in the top 5 either way. But where they finish 3 through 5 is very negotiable.
Well, I have Denver second in the West. I think they will be worse than they were last year, but they won the West last year.
Just don't have the
And
depth though.
I,
Their
you
depth
watch
scares
this,
me.
Joe. I'm 100% okay with you not believing how wrong you are at this moment. That's fine. And I'm with you actually. I have Sacramento fifth as well. So I'm right on board with you. Same idea.
You must be all aboard the Peyton Watson train in Denver because
Does it not say it on my hat?
Him and Christian Brown are going to be the only two reliable bench guys where you're like, oh, I'm maybe fine with them, but they're both so young. And now Reggie Jackson is back to major minutes, so I don't know. In sixth place, I'm guessing you probably had them maybe a little higher. I probably not swapping with the Warriors, but sixth place I have the Grizzlies, and this is due to missing 20, 25 games, whatever it is for Ja Morant. Then you have the reacclimation period. I think Desmond Bain, Jaren Jackson Jr. will have fantastic years. I'm on record as saying I like that they brought in Marcus Smart and even Derrick Rose. That's a fine point guard tandem to get you through things. But you have to think they would have rather had Tyus Jones through all this, right? I mean, Jones ran the show and they played well with him, but I get it. It was time to move on. So yeah, I got the Grizzlies in six. There's still going to be a problem, but just not quite as scary of a problem until Ja hopefully gets his head back on straight and gets reacclimated. And that's going to be after the All-Star break by the time they're in any rhythm at all.
Yeah, I don't like the Marcus Smart. I love the Marcus Smart acquisition, and I have Memphis fourth. So I think they're a little bit higher. It's not crazy. I think the West is going to be pretty. I think
That's
for the first time in a while, we're going to have the East and the West both be very, very tight from top to bottom, or at least from top to the play-in.
Finishing in seventh, roughly where they were last year, I've got the Minnesota Timberwolves. Again, a team that I think the roster is better, but the loss of Taurean Prince is really difficult. I'm not in love with the point guard tandem. Mike Conley is serviceable, but probably should be a backup. Jordan McLaughlin is incredibly smart and is a poor man's Tyus Jones, but probably better as your third point guard or a guy who's in as a changeup. He's going to be tested as the full-time backup now, but Anthony Edwards is that good. Jaden McDaniels takes another leap forward. Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert get another full off season and hopefully more than like 20 some games to play together this year. I still don't think the pairing works long term, but it's enough to win regular season games and be entertaining. Eighth place though is
hold on. I just want to say Minnesota. I have them eighth, so we're same idea. Same idea.
The team I have in eighth, maybe they're the ones you have in seventh. They're the ones that everybody's in love with right now, and for good reason. The bench is a major question mark, yes, but the starting lineup is fun. The Oklahoma City Thunder.
Wow. I do not have them in eighth place right now. No. Yeah, people are in love with them. People are very much in love with them, and I get it. I have them as my number 10.
Okay. The ninth place team for me is one that, if everything breaks right, could finish as high as third. This is an incredible range for this team to be somewhere between third and ninth place. The problem is we've never seen things break right. We've only seen things break. It's the LA Clippers. They're veteran. They're old. The injuries are there. I love Kawhi Leonard. You do too. I like Paul George as a second wheel. I want them to be better. I want this to work. I like that they took a swing at it. I love that they drew a line in the sand when LeBron went to the Lakers and the Clippers were like, fine, we'll get Kawhi Leonard, the one guy who has never been afraid to completely mess you up during his career. And we'll bring in Paul George, who's perfectly equipped to play against you too. It just has never worked. So I can't get higher than ninth with them, but I give a large range of variance with this team.
I have them at seventh. I think, but again, seventh is not exactly setting the world afire. It's a hot take if I have them second, but they're seventh. So I'm in your ballpark.
It's ridiculous though that like I could see the Warriors and the Clippers swapping places. The way that how injuries break or don't break. That's could be the case.
Yeah.
10th place for me is the New Orleans Pelicans. Again, could be higher. But even if Zion plays, that starting lineup is really nice. The bench is really worrisome, more so than even in the past couple of years, which I don't understand. Trey Murphy, the third, is out for some extended period of time here to start the season. That again, Jose Alvarado coming back from injury. They're really, really shallow, and that's scary for a team that misses so many games from Zion Williamson and more than a handful from Brandon Ingram.
I could probably check in my handwriting. It is small and it is also very, very messy.
I appreciate that you did the entire predictions on one Post-it note. Very efficient.
Well, I don't want to keep coming back to papers if I don't have to.
Arky, Shea, saving a tree here.
And I'm also keeping like your predictions right next to it with like what you have there. So where were we at? What number were we at?
Number 10, the New Orleans Pelicans. Yeah, so we're
Brandon
finishing
Ingram,
out the play-in.
Would you have them at the play number 10?
Number 10.
Okay, well I have them number 9, so we're not bad. We're not bad. Okay. There.
All right. Finishing out the bottom 5 here. We'll spend a little bit of time on 2 of these teams, maybe not on the other ones. 11th, I've got the Rockets. 12, the Spurs. So these are big leaps forward for both teams as they now get set to win some games. It won't be enough, but it'll be enough progress that you go, yeah, we'll watch for them the following year. Utah falls to 13th. Again, decent group of players, really like the coach there, but the depth is even worse now that they blew things up. They don't actually want to win. Dallas actually wants to win. They're just not going to be able to. 14th for the Mavs, 15th for the Blazers. I think we'll probably be in agreement, at least on that bottom pick.
Excuse me. Well, so after 9, the Pelicans, 10th, I have Houston. Houston, I think can I think Houston's ready to start their ascent.
So I don't hate that.
That was my sort of hot take, I guess, last week. I have OKC 11th, though. I have them a little lower down.
So you think they missed the play-in?
Well, again, I mean, I think we're bunched here, but I do think that they're probably going to miss the play-in. I do like them. I do think they're fun to watch, and they had a great season last year, comparatively speaking. And I think they're better this year. But to get into the play-in, which I know they technically were last year, and what is we've called several times a very much more difficult Western Conference this year, it's going to be tough for them. Okay. I had Dallas 12th. I was looking for more reasons to put them further down. I ran out of once I got to Kyrie. 13, I have San Antonio at the 13th. 14th is going to be Portland for me, and 15th, I think this is my second hottest take, which is Utah. I think they're going to be the worst team in the West this year.
All right. They're going to get angry emails from 5 Jazz fans.
I'd love if I got one angry email from a Jazz fan.
All right. Before we get to playoff predictions, let's talk awards here. We have seen a run of centers over the last 3 years. Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and even Giannis Antetokounmpo. Not necessarily a center, but a big man for sure. I think that the league, which really badly wanted to hand the MVP to Luka Doncic, is going to move on. But there is somebody else from a top team that I think is going to lead the league in scoring this year and is just due. Like, he's been hanging around it for a while. And that's Jason Tatum. I think it's his year.
I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. I think he's the guy. The betting odds right now have Jokic 1, Doncic 2, Antetokounmpo 3, Embiid 4, then Tatum. Yeah. So I think he'd get pretty good value.
The Mavs and the Sixers won't win enough games, in my opinion, to warrant that.
I think MVP voters look for new if they can't find someone that's dominant. I also think that they look for somebody who puts up a bunch of numbers and bunch of stats. And Jason Tatum was only going to really put up one stat, but that's the stat that they care about the most. Like, they care about points, and so he's going to score a ton this year, and he's going to be on a really good team. I'm with you. I would take the Jason Tatum plus 800 right now. By the way, just to let you know the drop off, you used to heard those. Nikola Jokic 450 all the way to Jason Tatum plus 800. Kevin Durant's next at plus 1400.
So they're missing out on some guys who I think are going to be in the conversation. I have a couple honorable mentions here where their teams are going to win more games and jump, and their numbers are going to be ridiculous. Maybe not Jokic level ridiculous, but they're going to be enough to at least be mentioned. Tyrese Halliburton from Indiana in line for a big year. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Hold up. Let me give you, I just want to give people numbers for Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton is plus 10,000.
Get it together, bettors. Get it together.
You know who's got better odds? Bradley Beal has better odds, maybe, but better odds too.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from Oklahoma City.
He's next. He's one of the next ones, plus 1,600.
He had a almost historic season behind some of the numbers. And I know, like, as the NBA has gotten faster and the pace has increased, a lot of our scoring numbers, assist numbers have just been inflated. Threes have helped with that, but he's just going to keep getting better. And the other guy on the list, this is not a homer pick. I just think he's going to be all over Sports Center, all over the gram. Anthony Edwards is going to be on people's minds. He's not going to win it, but he's going to be on people's minds this year.
Plus 3,000. Yeah, Steph Curry, by the way, plus 1,500.
But I'm ain't never happening again. It ain't happening again for Steph. Sorry.
You don't see a lot of long shots win it, by the way, this award. So that's why I like Jason Tatum, because you get pretty good odds for him. I don't think that they want to go back to Jokic if they don't have to.
And the Nuggets aren't going to be in first place. You know, they're not.
Right. And, Giannis, I think Giannis is a great story. I think he'll put up a bunch of numbers like he always puts up, but these voters, they love new. The second place.
And people are going to go, oh, he's got Dame there now. He's got this team. They're fine, but he's won it before. So you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And the second guy on this list is Luka Doncic, and I just don't think they're going to be good.
You can't give the MVP to a guy whose team is going to finish in the bottom 5 of the conference. Like, I don't look at that Dallas roster, especially compared to teams like Houston, who got so much better, and like so many of these other squads that are already good. Dallas doesn't have a chance. They just don't.
Rookie of the year, who you got?
Well, it's Wemby, right? If it's not Wemby, this is a national emergency, an international emergency.
But let me just throw this out there, okay? To me, it makes sense, right? The push has already begun. He's already all over the highlights, and he's played really well. He's nutmegging guys in preseason games. It looks great, right? He's plus 120, so pretty much even money to be able to win it, which is astounding, right? He's definitely the odds-on favorite. But the second guy on that list is Scoot Henderson at plus 240. Not crazy difference odds. And right behind them is Chet Holmgren at a 2.8 plus 2.8.
He was the guy I was going to put in second. I think he's a dark horse there.
But then after that, Brandon Miller's next at plus 1,600. So clearly there's a top 3 hierarchy that people think that the odds makers think it's going to be receiving the highest chances of being your MVP. But Brandon Miller, Cam Whitmore plus 2,200, which is kind of
man.
Sasha Vezenkov plus 2,800. If you want to take that fella, do you want to take him?
Sacramento Kings, right? I think he actually will be a find for them. He's gonna give them some good minutes. But
Brady Dick plus 3,500.
Coach of the year. This is in keeping with my Indiana Pacers hot take. I think Rick Carlisle, if he can get them up to 5th place, he's back in this conversation. It was actually really hard for me to pick a coach of the year for this season, just because you've got guys that have won it recently. It's too obvious to give it to Frank Vogel with the Suns unless all of a sudden they're winning like 65, 67 games. I don't know that Adrian Griffin's going to get it in his first year with Milwaukee, because even if the Bucks play fantastic, it's going to be given credit to the Dame Lillard effect. Thibodeau's not going to get it again. I mean, maybe if the Knicks do get up into 2nd place and you got that big market bias, but I think the league lately with Coach of the Year, they look for somebody that bounces their team up into contention that wasn't really there. And the Pacers are that team.
Oh, the Pacers. Okay. I figured you would
Rick
go
Carlisle
with who is the odds-on favorite. Do you know who the odds-on favorite is?
I don't.
Go to Oklahoma, baby.
Okay.
Yeah. Mark Daigneault is, we got him at plus 650. Adrian Griffin, by the way, plus 700. But you're
the bettors are never gonna bet on the Pacers because they're like the 2nd smallest market in the league.
Let's see, where's Rick Carlisle on this list?
Probably way near the bottom.
Plus 2,500. You know what? That's a pretty big long shot to have it, because my guy who is definitely going to win it, it's also plus 2,500. It's Tom Thibodeau. I think if the Knicks are in 2nd, like you say, or in 3rd, I think they want to present one of the big market franchises with an award every now and then, huh? Especially if they're going to be on TV a lot more. Listen, the way we think the East and West are going to be, it's Look, Adrian Griffin, like we know that they're going to be good, right?
Right.
Joe
We know the
Mazzulla in
Lakers and
Boston.
the Suns are going to be good.
Joe Mazzulla in Boston. I don't think that they want to give that award to that guy. I just be honest with you. We go to Mike Malone in Denver or go to Phoenix. I don't think that they want to do anything like that. I think if Tom Thibodeau is as close to as good as we think he might be this year, then I think the voters will want to give it to Thibodeau. Because here's your next list: Adrian Griffith plus 700, then Spoelstra 800, Mazzulla 850, Mike Malone 900, Nick Nurse plus 1,000. So that's your next list on there. So, but I'm with you. We both went near off the board for the odds list.
Well, I've got an award for a Nick here. Sixth man of the year. This is a little bit of a long shot.
Do it.
But you and I both love this guy, Josh Hart. Josh Hart's going to get monster minutes in New York, and he's going to put up multiple stats, maybe not enough scoring. And sixth man of the year has typically gone to a gunner off the bench, somebody who's, flirting with 18, 20 points a game off the bench. That's not Josh Hart's game, so that's going to be difficult. But again, if the Knicks are winning a bunch and he is stuffing the stat sheet in multiple different ways, he's a guy that I looked at. Again, this was a tough one because many of the former sixth man of the year candidates, like a Tyler Hero, have moved into the starting lineups now for their teams. And there's not a bunch of clear-cut gunners off of benches. There's going to be some guys who emerge and guys that we overlooked for sure. But this one was a little bit tougher.
I will go, and I just looked it up, the odds-on favorite to win it, actually tied with the odds-on favorite, and I like that pick. Let's stay in New York. Emmanuel Quickly, plus 800. By the way,
I thought about him, yeah.
Your guy's plus 3,000. I love Emmanuel Quickly. This dude is one of my favorite Knicks in a while. He is just a spark. I love this kid. Josh Hart, I'm a big fan of too. Can't wait to see more of him this year. But I love Emmanuel Quickly, who's the favorite, but he's tied with the favorite with Malcolm Brogdon. He's also plus 800.
If Brogdon was on a contending team, and yeah, he's the defending champ for that award, I would give it more. But the Blazers don't want to win games. They're going to let Brogdon play, and it's going to go down after the first couple of weeks because it's all about getting as many minutes as you can for Scoot Henderson and Shadon Sharp and Anthony Simons and whatever other young guys they want to take a look at in the backcourt. Brogdon is, like we talked about last week in the Western Conference preview, he is a prime candidate to be there the first half of the season, try to set a good example, try to give some veteran leadership, and then get moved at the deadline.
By the way, he's that Shadon Sharp kid you're talking about. He is one of the top guys for most improved player. People are high on him. All right. Did you want to also do the defensive player?
I do, and this one I'm giving to Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Grizzlies.
Love it.
So many blocks, and he gets steals. There's a lot of other good candidates to this, but I think he is the head and shoulders favorite right now.
I'm going to go a little different because I went away from him last year and he still put up great numbers, but Jaren Jackson is the favorite at plus 500. Evan Mobley's at 650. But the next guy I'm taking Giannis. I think Giannis is going to put up more big numbers. Like all he does is fill the stat sheet. And if there's any type of come back to earthness a little bit for Jaren Jackson, if there's a little bit of that, Giannis is just going to have numbers that's going to be hard to deny. So I like him. I'm not going too far off the board to be able to get him, but I do like him as well. Anthony Davis back there plus 1,000.
Yeah, he'll be in the mix, and I think with Giannis too, if the Bucks are really, really good, which we've predicted, Giannis probably doesn't get the MVP because again the Dame Lillard thing. But we talked about this a couple of years ago. The league is going to want to give something to Giannis, something to a Buck. And Defensive Player of the Year makes a ton of sense because his numbers are going to be in line with so many others. Let's talk playoff predictions here. This is a little bit harder to do. And again, we revise this and revisit this when we get closer to the actual playoffs. But I'll just run through a couple of the matchups here and we won't spend much time with it. I have the Hawks and the Nets getting out of the play-in tournament. So this would be the Bucks and the Hawks in the first round, the 1-8. The 4-5 would be Celtics Pacers. 2-7 would be the Battle of New York, Knicks Nets, baby. And 3-6 would be Cavs hosting the Sixers. I've got the Bucks, the Celtics, the Knicks, and the Cavs all advancing to the semifinals. What do you hate about that?
Celtics, Knicks, and Cavs, you said?
as your Eastern Conference semifinalist.
Yeah, even because see, I like Philadelphia being the number 4 seed, but I still don't think they're a good team to get even through the probably even the first round. So yeah, I'm probably with you. I'll be okay with those being your 4 semifinalists.
I have the Bucks and the Knicks advancing to the Eastern Conference Final, so the Knicks get to beat the Cavs again in the playoffs. That would be a 4-3 matchup, or a 4-3 final, I should say.
Joel, I need you to finish this prediction correctly.
I do have the Bucks. I have the Bucks beating the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals to reach the NBA Finals. But this would be a major step forward for the Knicks. I mean, New York would be rocking if they could get to
I do have a problem with that, though. I have a major problem with that because the Knicks will win the West or win the East. Obviously,
they'll win the West.
Well, listen, once you eliminate them with Milwaukee, they'll go play in the West to figure out who they can beat over there. By the way, yes, the Knicks deep into the playoffs. That the Garden's going to be nuts. You saw how the Garden was for the Hawks series. Who cares about the Hawks, right?
Right.
Like, this team will care. This team will be excited.
All right. On the Western side, I've got the Thunder and the Wolves making it out of the play-in tournament as they did last year. 1-8 matchup is Lakers, Thunder, Nuggets, Kings, and 4-5. The 2-7 would be the Suns and the Wolves, and the 3-6 would be Warriors, Grizzlies, which I know will upset some people. But making it to the semifinals, Lakers, Kings, Suns, and Grizzlies. Yes, I have the defending champs losing in the first round to Sacramento. I'm not high on the Nuggets this year, despite where I was last year.
Warriors Grizzlies would be a fun first round matchup. I'd very much watch that. I don't hate you having Denver out in the first round, because I think we both have been on this West being so much deeper than it has been. So I think it's going to be super competitive. So I can get on board with that.
All right. To the Western Conference Finals we go. I've got the Lakers defeating the Kings and the Suns beating the Grizzlies, though that would be an absolute slugfest and the type of matchup that I think could be the Suns' undoing. So I'm not real confident on that one, but yes, I've got Lakers and Suns, and so yes, this does mean in both conference finals I have the 1-2 matchups. We don't typically always get that, but historically
the NBA does go heavily. The top end does win out.
The teams are what they are, right? Yeah. They are who we thought they were. And I've got
you'll get a Dallas show up. You'll get you get Miami a couple years ago show up. It happens.
Portland a few years ago made the conference finals. Hard to believe with where they are now, but and I do have the Lakers advancing past the Suns. So I've got Lakers Bucks in the NBA finals. And I have the Los Angeles Lakers hoisting the championship this year. Remember 2 years ago where we said it was the Golden State Warriors Remember Us tour, and it was like the last one? I think this is the year for LA to do that. This is the Remember Us tour. It's the last time that LeBron's going to be at this level. And, you know, all bets are off with Anthony Davis anyway and his health, but the depth is there to be able to make it through a regular season this time. They're athletic. LeBron's not going to have to be the guy who's both outletting the pass and catching his own outlet to go score sometimes, you know, as they were like 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago. It's hard to bet against him. So I'd love to see Dame get a ring, especially the first year coming over and have that story. But I feel like he's going to fall short in that quest here this season, at least.
I don't want anything good for Boston. They're going to be a tough beat.
It's interesting how different you and I are on that roster.
So
kind of like it is with the Nuggets too.
But here's the thing with Boston for me is that I just, you don't have to be that deep in the playoffs, right? The bench is shortened up by a considerable amount. If you're into the playoffs and you have 7 or 8 guys that you're okay with, you can win the whole thing.
As long as they're all healthy, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, sure. I mean, this is all health determinant. So that being said, know who my ghost answer really is, but I will tell you that I think Milwaukee is the correct pick out of the East this year. I just don't see a Miami or a Cleveland or a Philadelphia or a Brooklyn or maybe even an Indiana coming up there and being able to beat Milwaukee.
But do you see Milwaukee and Boston squaring off in the Eastern Conference Finals, or do you think that is somewhere the Knicks likely get? I mean, I know you think they can get there, but realistically, heart of hearts, are you feeling Boston?
I think the Knicks are good enough to win the East. I think they are good enough to win the East. I think people are going to like Milwaukee's roster better and Boston's roster better. Let me look at the odds for the NBA championship. Let's see, team futures. We got for the title. It's the Celtics plus 400 along with the Bucks. The Knicks plus 5,000. Yeah. So we got 2 Eastern Conference teams, 3 Eastern Conference teams with Philadelphia, Miami, 4 Cleveland, plus 3,000 on the same level. So there's 4 Eastern Conference teams betting wise that are considered more favorites than the Knicks. I think the Knicks are good enough to win it. I don't think I'll ever trust Tom Thibodeau wholly to be able to complete that thing, but I think the roster itself is as good as the Knicks have had in a long time, and also good enough for the way Tom Thibodeau plays. I think they can give Boston or Milwaukee a run for their money. But if you're asking me to put smart money down, it's probably Milwaukee, but you know who my ghost answer is. I actually think it's the better team, and I think Phoenix is the best team in the West. I have
better than LA. Wow,
I do think that they're better than LA. Most of this is not trusting the Lakers' health, and actually one player in particular is health. But I do think Phoenix is deep and they're good, and they spread the ball really well, or at least they have the roster to be able to spread the ball with a lot of length on that team too. And I think that's what you got to have to win. And Milwaukee Phoenix is your championship matchup, and I think Phoenix wins the title. I think this is going to be one of those break it off. It's a brand new team cutting down the net. So give me Phoenix over Milwaukee / Boston for your NBA championship.
You heard it here, folks. You heard it here first. Phoenix Suns winning the championship. I mean, they're going to be in the mix. I can't disagree with it. But let us know what you think in the comments section.
It would be weirder if I told you Cleveland was winning the world championship, right?
Right. Oh, okay. For sure. For sure. I mean, we could get real weird with this. And remember, I'm pretty sure I picked the Clippers last year to come out of the West. Like the very, very early predictions we did, I think I picked them. So we've been weird and we've been very wrong before, but we were both high on the Nuggets last year. And we did 2 years ago nail that Warriors pick when nobody else was picking.
You could not have gotten it more right than we did on the Warriors. We did 2 years ago.
And we're going to rest on those laurels for the rest of our careers here.
Listen, you get one right, you ride that fish into the boat, right?
Yeah. How many you got, Stephen A. Smith? How many you got? We got one.
Stephen A. Smith doesn't know where certain players in the NBA play, position wise, not city wise, position wise. So,
well, Charles Barkley doesn't know where certain NBA players play city-wise either. So,
listen, Charles Barkley is not an analyst. Charles Barkley is a funny man for me.
Fair enough, yeah.
I almost never listen to his NBA opinions. Like, that's a good idea. It's more like, dude, I'm waiting for him to say really something mean about the San Antonio women.
Right. All right. If you want the video version, find us on YouTube, like, share, subscribe over there, ring the bell, all that good stuff. If you want the audio-only version, Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. Ron Harper, hope we did you proud. And when we come back next week, we're going to have real live NBA games to begin talking about. And again, if you want the breakdowns of the individual teams, we did predict the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference over the last 2 shows. So those links are available.
You ready to be right and to talk about games that truly matter?
I'm just looking forward to have something to watch on TV again at night. So
we're going to have to talk about something. Is it next week the game that you're going to?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the Bucks home opener against the Hawks. I mean, I can tease that there. But
it's the end of the podcast. No one listens to this part. That's fine. Right. So it'll be the first thing we talk about. That game's next week, right?
It is. Yeah, next week Saturday. And that'll be the Bucks' second game of the season already because they're on opening night. But it'll be Dame's home debut at least. So please don't get hurt in game 1, Dame Lillard. Don't pull a Gordon Hayward. Please don't do that.
Oh my God, you're wishing the good things. I like you putting out the bad energy into the universe. Nice job.
Yeah,
I will blame you if that happens. So. All right, that's gonna do it for us. The Ron Harper episode is done.